After disappearing for years, he stood before his daughter, unrecognized and a stranger. Will their hearts find a way to heal the invisible wounds and restore their family bond? James Walker stood on the cracked sidewalk of Elm Street, the place he once called home. 10 years had slipped through his fingers like sand since he left Cedar Grove, chasing a dream that led nowhere. The evening sun cast long shadows, and the scent of blooming jasmine stirred memories he thought he'd forgotten. He took a deep breath and approached the modest 2-story house with the blue shutters. His heart pounded as he raised his hand to knock on the faded red door. Before he could second-guess himself, the door swung open. A young woman with striking green eyes and chestnut hair stood before him. She looked about 17, the same age his daughter Emma would be now. "Can I help you?" she asked, her gaze curious yet cautious. "Emma?" His voice wavered, her brow furrowed. "Do I know you?" James felt a lump in his throat. "It's me, your father." She took a step back, confusion turning to disbelief. "My father left years ago." "I know. I made a mistake. But I'm here now," he said, desperation creeping into his tone. She shook her head slowly. "This isn't funny. If you're looking for my mom, she's not here." "Please, Emma, I just want a chance to explain," James pleaded. A car pulled into the driveway and out stepped Lily, his former wife. Time had been kind to her, but the surprise on her face quickly hardened into a guarded expression. "James? What are you doing here?" Lily's voice was icy. "I needed to see you both," he replied, turning to face her. Emma looked between them, realization dawning. "Mom, what's going on?" Lily placed a protective hand on Emma's shoulder. "Go inside, sweetie." "But, please," Lily insisted. With one last bewildered glance at James, Emma retreated into the house. Once the door closed, Lily crossed her arms. "You have some nerve showing up here after all this time. I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but I want to make things right." James said earnestly. She sighed heavily. "You can't just walk back into our lives. It's not that simple." "I've changed, Lily. Not a day went by that I didn't think about you both." "Changed?" she scoffed. "People don't just change overnight, James." He looked down at his worn boots. "It wasn't overnight. It took losing everything to realize what truly matters." Inside the house, a piano melody began to play. Soft, melancholic notes that drifted through the open window. James recognized the tune instantly. It was the lullaby he used to play for Emma. "She's talented," he remarked, nodding toward the sound. "She taught herself," Lily said quietly. "Music helps her cope." "Because I wasn't here," James whispered. Lily didn't deny it. "What do you expect from us?" "Just a chance to be part of her life," he said, meeting her gaze. She studied him for a moment. "That's not my decision to make." The front door opened and Emma stepped out cautiously. "Mom, is everything okay?" Lily turned to her daughter. "Emma, this is James, your father." Emma's eyes widened, a mixture of shock and hurt flashing across her face. "Why are you here now?" James took a tentative step forward. "I came to see you to try and explain." "Explain what? That you abandoned us?" Her voice cracked. "I'm sorry," he said, his eyes pleading. "Leaving was the biggest mistake of my life." She hugged herself tightly. "You can't undo the past." "I know, but maybe we can start anew," James offered. Emma looked to her mother. "Did you know he was coming?" Lily shook her head. "This is as much a surprise to me as it is to you." Silence hung heavy in the air. The distant sounds of kids playing and dogs barking seemed to amplify the tension. "I think you should go," Emma finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Emma, please," James began. "Just go," she repeated, turning away. Lily stepped forward. "You hurt her. It's best if you leave." James felt a sinking weight in his chest. "I understand, but I'll be staying in town for a while. If either of you wants to talk." No one replied. Defeated, he nodded and began to walk away. As he reached the end of the driveway, he heard the piano music start up again, this time louder, more intense. The haunting melody followed him down the street, each note a reminder of the distance between him and the life he left behind. That night, James checked into a small motel on the outskirts of town. The room was sparse, but he didn't care. Sleep eluded him as he replayed the day's events over and over. He knew winning back their trust wouldn't be easy, but he was determined. Pulling out a worn photograph from his wallet, a picture of Emma as a toddler in his arms, he made a silent promise. "I'll find a way to make it up to you, to both of you." Meanwhile, back at the house, Emma sat at the piano, her fingers hovering over the keys. "Why did he have to come back?" she asked, her eyes glistening. Lily sat beside her. "I don't know, honey, but we don't have to let him disrupt our lives." Emma looked at her mother. "Do you think people can really change?" Lily sighed. "I think sometimes people realize their mistakes. Whether they've truly changed is another matter." "Part of me wants to hear him out," Emma admitted softly. "And the other part is afraid of getting hurt again." Lily wrapped an arm around her. "Whatever you decide, I'm here for you." As the night deepened, both James and Emma lay awake in their separate worlds, each contemplating the uncertain path ahead. The stage was set, and the first fragile threads of a complicated reunion had been woven. The morning light seeped through the thin curtains of James's modest motel room. He sat on the edge of the bed, the weight of the previous day's encounter pressing heavily on his shoulders. The confusion and hurt in Emma's eyes haunted him. He had imagined many scenarios of their reunion, but none had prepared him for the reality of being a stranger to his own daughter. Determined to make amends, James decided to learn more about Emma's life. He wandered through Cedar Grove, a town both familiar and changed. The old bookstore was now a cafe. The park where he once played with Emma had new swings and freshly painted benches. As he walked past the local art gallery, a photograph in the window caught his eye, a striking image of the river at sunset, signed Emma Walker. A surge of pride mixed with regret filled him. His daughter had become a talented photographer, and he had missed it all. Meanwhile, Emma sat in her bedroom, surrounded by photographs and memories. The unexpected appearance of her father stirred emotions she had long suppressed. She pulled out an old photo album, flipping through pictures of birthdays and holidays where his absence was a glaring void. Conflicted, she wondered why he had returned now after so many years. At the kitchen table, Lily sipped her coffee thoughtfully. She sensed Emma's turmoil, but was unsure how to comfort her. The pain of James's departure had left scars on them both. Lily recalled the early days of struggle, raising Emma alone, and the community that had rallied around them. She hoped that whatever decision Emma made regarding her father, it would bring her peace. James spent the afternoon at the town library, researching opportunities to stay and work in Cedar Grove. He wanted to prove to Emma and Lily that he was committed to making things right. He found a notice about a maintenance job at the community center and filled out an application, hoping it might be a step toward rebuilding his life. Emma decided to visit the art gallery to prepare for her upcoming exhibition. As she arranged her photographs, Mr. Thompson, the gallery owner, approached her with a gentle smile. "You have a visitor who admires your work," he mentioned, handing her a note. Confused, she unfolded the paper to find a heartfelt message from James, expressing his desire to know her and apologizing for the past. She read the note several times, emotions swirling, anger, curiosity, and an unexpected flicker of hope. That evening, she shared the note with her mother. Lily listened attentively as Emma voiced her conflicted feelings. "I don't know if I can trust him," Emma admitted. Lily placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Only you can decide if you're ready to hear him out," she said softly. Over the next few days, James busied himself with small acts around town. He volunteered at the community garden and helped repair the playground equipment. Word of his return spread quietly through Cedar Grove, met with mixed reactions from the townspeople. One afternoon, as Emma walked through the park to clear her mind, she noticed James painting a fence near the playground. He hadn't seen her yet. She observed him for a moment, noting the lines of fatigue on his face and the tentative care in his actions. Summoning her courage, she approached him. He looked up, surprised but hopeful. "Hi, Emma," he said cautiously. She nodded in acknowledgement, unsure of what to say. The silence between them was heavy but not entirely uncomfortable. Finally, she spoke. "I got your note." Relief washed over his features. "Thank you for reading it," he replied. She glanced around, gathering her thoughts. "Why did you decide to come back now?" she asked. He took a moment before answering. "I realized that running away didn't solve anything. I missed so much, and I want to try to make things right if you'll let me." Emma considered his words. "It's not that simple," she said quietly. "You left a hole in our lives." "I know," he admitted, "and I can't change the past, but I'm hoping we can find a way forward." She looked at him. searching for sincerity. "I need time," she finally said. "This is a lot to process." "Of course," James agreed. "I'm not expecting anything overnight. Just know that I'm here." As she walked away, Emma felt a mixture of relief and confusion. Confronting him had been difficult, but perhaps it was a step toward healing. That evening, she sat at her piano, playing the familiar lullaby her father used to sing. The melody filled the room, echoing the bittersweet memories of childhood. Lily listened from the doorway, recognizing the significance. "How did it go?" she asked softly. "We talked," Emma replied. "It was a start." Lily nodded. "I'm proud of you." "Part of me wants to give him a chance," Emma confessed, "but I'm afraid of getting hurt again." "It's okay to be cautious," Lily assured her. "Take it at your own pace." In his motel room, James reflected on the brief conversation with Emma. It wasn't much, but it was more than he deserved. He resolved to be patient, giving her the space she needed while showing through his actions that he was committed to change. The days passed slowly. Emma focused on her photography, channeling her emotions into her art. She began to include themes of reconciliation and time lost in her work, finding a therapeutic release in the creative process. One day, she received an invitation to showcase her photographs at a larger gallery in the city. It was an exciting opportunity, but she felt a pang of sadness that her family wasn't whole to share in her success. Deciding to take a chance, she invited both Lily and James to attend the exhibition. On the evening of the event, they arrived separately but stood together, admiring Emma's work. The atmosphere was filled with unspoken words, but there was a sense of mutual respect and tentative hope. As they shared a proud smile, it seemed that perhaps the barriers between them were beginning to lower. The journey toward rebuilding their relationship was just beginning. While the future remained uncertain, the small steps they had taken offered a glimmer of possibility. In the quiet moments that followed, they each acknowledged that healing would take time, but maybe, just maybe, they could become a family once more. The days grew shorter as autumn settled over Cedar Grove, painting the town in hues of amber and crimson. James began his new job at the community center, a modest position that allowed him to contribute meaningfully. The scent of fresh paint and the sound of children's laughter filled his days, offering a semblance of purpose he hadn't felt in years. Emma immersed herself in preparations for her city gallery exhibition. Her photographs had evolved, capturing not just scenes but emotions. Shadows of longing, fragments of reconciliation. One afternoon, while developing photos in the darkroom, she noticed a recurring figure in the backgrounds, her father, unnoticed yet present in the periphery of her life. The realization stirred a complex mix of emotions: annoyance, curiosity, and a reluctant appreciation for his quiet support. Meanwhile, Lily grappled with her own feelings. Seeing James integrate himself into the community unsettled her. Memories of their early years resurfaced, the dreams they shared, the gradual erosion of their relationship. One evening, she visited the community center under the pretense of donating supplies. Watching James interact with the children, guiding them in painting a mural, she saw glimpses of the man she once loved. A week before Emma's exhibition, a storm swept through Cedar Grove, leaving the town without power. The community center opened its doors as a shelter. Emma volunteered to help, surprised to find her father coordinating efforts. The atmosphere was bustling, candles casting warm glows, the aroma of hot soup filling the air. Together they assisted residents, their interactions minimal but cooperative. As the night wore on, an elderly woman approached them. "You two make a good team," she remarked. Emma started to correct her but paused, considering the truth in the statement. Later, while distributing blankets, Emma overheard James comforting a frightened child with the same lullaby he used to sing to her. The familiar melody resonated deeply, unlocking a door she had kept closed for too long. The following day, the town began to recover from the storm. Emma found herself at the community center again, this time seeking out her father. She approached him hesitantly. "I saw how you helped everyone last night," she began. He looked up, hope flickering in his eyes. "It wasn't much, but I wanted to do my part," he replied. She took a deep breath. "I'd like to know more about why you left. Not just for me, but to understand." James nodded solemnly. "I owe you that." They sat on a bench outside, the crisp air filled with the scent of wet leaves. He spoke of his past, his fears, his misguided belief that leaving was an act of mercy. He recounted the loneliness, the countless times he wanted to return but felt unworthy. Emma listened intently, her initial skepticism giving way to empathy. She saw not just a man who had left, but one who was lost within himself. "I can't forget what happened," she said softly, "but maybe, in time, I can forgive." Relief washed over James's face. "That's more than I deserve." Back at home, Emma shared the conversation with Lily. "He's trying, Mom. I think he genuinely wants to be part of our lives." Lily gazed out the window, the branches of the old oak tree swaying gently. "People can change," she mused, "but trust is rebuilt slowly." As the day of the exhibition arrived, Emma felt a mixture of excitement and apprehension. The gallery buzzed with patrons admiring her work. Among them, she spotted James standing quietly, hands clasped, pride evident in his eyes. Lily joined him, and for the first time in years, the three stood together. A journalist approached them. "Your photographs evoke such profound emotion," he remarked to Emma. "What inspires you?" She glanced at her parents before answering. Life's complexities, the interplay of absence and presence, loss and rediscovery. Later, as the event wound down, Emma found a handwritten note slipped into her portfolio. It was from James. "Your art speaks what words cannot. Thank you for allowing me a glimpse into your world." Touched, she looked up to see him exiting the gallery. Stepping outside, she caught up with him. "Dad," she called out, a word she hadn't used in years. He turned, surprised. "Yes? Would you like to join Mom and me for dinner tomorrow?" she asked, her voice steady but hopeful. Emotion flickered across his face. "I would love that." As they parted ways, Emma felt a weight lift. The path ahead was uncertain, but the first steps toward healing had been taken. The melodies of the past began to harmonize with the present, hinting at a future where forgiveness might lead to a renewed family bond. Pensu por 17 segundos. Chapter 4. The following evening, anticipation hung in the air as Emma and Lily prepared for dinner. The aroma of roasted herbs and garlic filled the kitchen, mingling with the soft glow of candlelight. Emma arranged 3 place settings at the table, her fingers lingering over the polished silverware. "Are you sure you're ready for this?" Lily asked gently, slicing a loaf of warm bread. Emma met her mother's eyes. "I think so. It's time we see where this leads." A knock at the door interrupted their thoughts. Emma took a deep breath and opened it to find James standing there, a bouquet of daisies in hand. "Hi," he said softly. "These are for you both." "Thanks," she replied, accepting the flowers and stepping aside to let him in. They settled at the table, an awkward silence momentarily filling the space. The clinking of utensils against plates became the only sound. Finally, James spoke. "This looks wonderful. You always were a great cook, Lily." "Thank you," Lily replied politely, a hint of a smile on her lips. Emma observed them cautiously, searching for signs of tension. Instead, she noticed a shared nostalgia in their eyes. "So, Dad, how's work at the community center?" she asked. "It's going well," he replied. "We're organizing a charity event next week. It feels good to give back." "Maybe I could photograph it," Emma suggested, "capture some moments for the town newsletter." James's face brightened. "That would be great. We'd appreciate that." As dinner progressed, the conversation flowed more naturally. They shared stories of the town, laughed about old neighbors, and reminisced about the annual summer fairs. The barriers began to thin, replaced by genuine connection. After the meal, they moved to the living room. Emma brought out a photo album. "I've been working on a new project," she explained, showing them images of Cedar Grove's landscapes and its people. "Your talent is remarkable," James said, admiration evident in his voice. Lily nodded in agreement. She's always had an eye for beauty. Emma felt a warmth she hadn't experienced in a long time, a semblance of family. As the evening drew to a close, James stood to leave. "Thank you for having me. Tonight meant a lot." "We're glad you came," Emma replied sincerely. Lily walked him to the door. "Good night, James." He paused, meeting her gaze. "Good night, Lily, and thank you." Once he left, mother and daughter sat together on the porch. The night was clear, stars scattered across the sky like diamonds. "How do you feel?" Lily asked softly. "Hopeful," Emma admitted. "It's strange, but maybe this is a new beginning." Lily squeezed her hand. "We can take it one day at a time." The next morning, Emma received an unexpected email. As she read, her eyes widened. "Mom," she called out. Lily hurried into the room. "What is it?" "I've been offered a scholarship to the New York Institute of Photography," Emma exclaimed. "They loved my portfolio." "That's incredible." Lily embraced her tightly. "I'm so proud of you." Excitement mingled with apprehension. Later that day, Emma found James repairing a fence at the community center. She approached him with a hesitant smile. "I have some news." He set down his tools. "Tell me." "I've been accepted to a photography program in New York," she said. His face lit up. "Emma, that's fantastic. You deserve this opportunity." "I'm excited but also nervous about leaving," she confessed. He nodded thoughtfully. "Change can be daunting, but sometimes it's exactly what we need." "Would you support my decision to go?" she asked tentatively. "Absolutely," James assured her. "I want you to follow your dreams." Over the next few days, Emma wrestled with the choice. The prospect of leaving home, and just as she was reconnecting with her father, was overwhelming. One evening, she returned to the old oak tree in the park, a place of solace since childhood. To her surprise, James was there, sitting on a bench beneath the sprawling branches. "Couldn't sleep?" he asked as she approached. She shook her head. "Too much on my mind." He patted the seat beside him. "Want to talk about it?" Sitting down, she gazed up at the canopy of leaves. "I'm afraid that by leaving, I'll lose this chance with you." He took a deep breath. "Emma, your future is important. I don't want my past mistakes to hold you back." She turned to face him. "But what if things change while I'm gone?" He offered a gentle smile. "Our relationship is just beginning to heal. Distance won't erase that. We'll stay in touch, and I'll be here when you come home." A sense of relief washed over her. "You promise?" "I do," he affirmed. "Besides, New York isn't so far. I could visit if you'd like." "I'd like that," she replied, a genuine smile forming. They sat in comfortable silence, the rustling leaves creating a soothing melody. Emma felt a newfound clarity. "I think I'm going to accept the scholarship." James squeezed her hand gently. "I'm proud of you." As they parted ways, Emma headed home to share her decision with Lily. Her mother listened intently, then embraced her. "I knew you'd choose what's right for you. Are you okay with it?" Emma asked. "Of course," Lily assured her. "Though I'll miss you terribly." "I'll miss you too, but it's time for me to take this step." The following days were a flurry of preparations. James helped where he could, fixing a broken suitcase handle and offering practical advice about city life. The night before her departure, they gathered for another family dinner. "This feels normal," Emma remarked as they laughed over a shared joke. "Maybe it's the start of a new normal," James suggested. Lily raised her glass, to Emma's bright future. "To new beginnings," James added. "To family," Emma concluded, clinking her glass against theirs. That evening, Emma sat in her room, surrounded by packed bags. She picked up her camera and took a candid photo of her parents chatting in the kitchen, a moment she wanted to preserve. The next morning at the bus station, farewells were bittersweet. "Call us when you arrive," Lily instructed, tears glistening in her eyes. "I will," Emma promised, hugging her tightly. James stood awkwardly, unsure of his place. Emma turned to him. "Thank you for being here, always," he said softly. She embraced him, the first hug they'd shared since his return. "Take care of Mom." "I will," he assured her. As the bus pulled away, Emma watched them through the window, a mixture of sadness and excitement swirling within her. She knew the journey ahead was uncertain, but she felt supported in a way she hadn't before. James and Lily stood side by side, waving until the bus was out of sight. An unspoken understanding passed between them. "Coffee?" Lily suggested. "I'd like that," James replied. Walking back toward town, they began to talk. Not just about Emma, but about themselves. The road to reconciliation was long, but with each step, the past's hold weakened. Emma settled into her seat, the landscape rolling by. She felt a surge of hope, not just for herself, but for the family she was leaving behind. The future was unwritten, but for the first time in years, she believed it held promise. The cacophony of New York City was both exhilarating and overwhelming. Emma stood amidst the towering skyscrapers, the hum of traffic and chatter enveloping her. The Photography Institute was intense, competition was fierce, and expectations were high. In her small apartment overlooking a bustling street, loneliness seeped in despite the city's constant motion. She wandered the streets at night, capturing candid moments. The weary shopkeeper closing up, a couple sharing a quiet laugh, the glow of neon lights reflecting on wet pavement. Yet something was missing in her work, a depth she couldn't quite grasp. Back in Cedar Grove, James and Lily found themselves crossing paths more often. A chance meeting at the farmer's market led to shared laughter over fresh apples and memories. "It's good to see you smile," James remarked softly. Lily hesitated before replying. Time has a way of healing. One evening, Emma received a critique from her instructor that shook her confidence. "Your photos are technically sound but lack soul," he said. Disheartened, she called James. "Dad, I'm struggling. Maybe I don't belong here." James listened intently. "Remember the old oak tree you used to climb? You took some of your best photos there because you felt connected. Find that here, a place or a feeling that speaks to you." Inspired, Emma sought out the quieter corners of the city. In a small jazz club tucked away in an alley, she found it. The raw emotion in the music, the stories etched on the musicians' faces. She began photographing these moments, infusing her work with newfound passion. Meanwhile, Lily discovered a box of old letters in the attic, unsent letters James had written over the years. Reading his unspoken words of regret and longing, she felt a shift within herself. The next day, she visited the community center. "I found your letters," she told him. James looked away, shame coloring his features. "I didn't think you'd ever see them. They're honest," she replied. "Maybe it's time we both stop hiding from the past." They walked through the town square, autumn leaves crunching underfoot. Conversations flowed more freely, touching on dreams once shared and paths diverged. "I want to make amends," James said earnestly. "Actions speak louder than words," Lily replied, a hint of a smile softening her expression. In New York, Emma's revitalized portfolio caught her instructor's attention. "Now this is compelling," he noted. Her confidence grew, but so did a longing for home. She called Lily. "Mom, things are better, but I miss you both." "Funny you should say that," Lily responded. "We've been thinking of visiting." When they arrived, the city's vastness felt less daunting with her parents by her side. They attended one of Emma's gallery showings together. As they stood before her photographs, the unspoken understanding passed between them, a recognition of shared journeys and silent reconciliations. One photograph captivated James, a candid shot of a street musician lost in his art. "There's so much emotion here," he observed. Emma smiled. "I found my connection, just like you said." Their days were filled with exploration, visiting museums, strolling through Central Park, sharing meals in cozy cafes. One night, they attended a jazz performance. The soulful melodies wrapped around them, dissolving lingering tensions. After the show, as snow began to fall lightly, they walked back to Emma's apartment. Lily slipped her arm through James's. "I've missed moments like this," she admitted. James looked at her, hope shining in his eyes. "So have I." Emma watched them, warmth spreading in her chest. "Maybe some things are worth a second chance," she whispered. Their visit ended too soon. At the train station, Lily hugged Emma tightly. "You're growing into an incredible woman." "Thanks to you both," Emma replied. Turning to James, she said, "Don't be a stranger." "Never again," he promised. Winter gave way to spring. Emma's work continued to flourish, gaining recognition beyond the institute. She stayed connected with her parents through regular calls and messages. One afternoon, she received an unexpected package, a photo of the old oak tree, newly blossomed, with a note from James. "Roots run deep, no matter the distance." Moved, Emma realized how far they'd all come. She decided to surprise them with a visit home. Arriving unannounced, she found James and Lily planting a garden together. "Need an extra hand?" she called out. Their faces lit up. "Emma!" they exclaimed in unison. As they worked side by side, laughter and conversation flowed effortlessly. The garden began to take shape, a blend of their collective efforts, much like their renewed relationships. That evening, they sat on the porch, the sky painted in hues of pink and gold. Emma shared stories of the city, her successes and challenges. James and Lily exchanged glances, a silent agreement forming. "Emma," Lily began gently, "there's something we want to tell you." James took a breath. "We've decided to give our relationship another try." A smile spread across Emma's face. "I've been hoping you'd say that." The trio sat together as dusk settled, the stars emerging one by one. The air was filled with the scent of jasmine and the sound of crickets, a symphony of familiarity and peace. Emma felt a profound sense of contentment. Home isn't just a place, she mused. It's the people we share it with. Wise words, James agreed, his gaze resting fondly on his daughter. As the night deepened, they made plans for the future, holidays together, visits to the city, and projects to collaborate on. The wounds of the past hadn't vanished, but they were healing, replaced by hope and mutual commitment. Emma knew challenges would arise, but she was no longer afraid. The threads of their lives, once frayed, were weaving into a stronger tapestry. Together, they embraced the uncertainty of tomorrow, confident in the resilience of their renewed family bond. Summer cast a golden hue over Cedar Grove, the warmth breathing life into every corner of the town. Emma decided to spend a few months at home before starting her next big photography project. One morning, she received an invitation from the community center. They were hosting a celebration to commemorate its expansion, a project James had been deeply involved in. As the sun began to set on the day of the event, lanterns flickered to life, casting a soft glow over the gathering crowd. Emma wandered through the throng, her camera capturing moments of joy and community spirit. She spotted James near the stage, adjusting a microphone. Lily stood beside him, their coordinated efforts seamless. "Ready to make your big speech?" Emma teased, approaching them. James chuckled nervously. "Public speaking was never my forte." "You'll do great," Lily assured him, squeezing his hand. The gesture was small but spoke volumes about the mended bridges between them. The ceremony began with local musicians playing familiar tunes. Then, James took the stage. "Thank you all for being here," he started, his voice steady. "This center isn't just a building, it's a testament to what we can achieve when we come together." As he spoke, Emma felt a swell of pride. Her father had transformed, not just in her eyes but in the hearts of the community. The crowd erupted in applause as he concluded. Later, as the festivities continued, Emma noticed an elderly man watching from the periphery. Something about him seemed out of place. She approached him cautiously. "Hi, I'm Emma. Are you enjoying the event?" He looked at her with piercing blue eyes. "It's delightful. You must be James's daughter." "Yes, that's me," she replied, surprised. "Do you know my father?" In a manner of speaking, he said cryptically before disappearing into the crowd. Puzzled, Emma searched for him but to no avail. She mentioned the encounter to James and Lily. He seemed familiar somehow. James's expression grew serious. "Did he say anything else?" "No, just that he knew you." A shadow crossed James's face. "I think I know who he is. We should talk." They retreated to a quiet corner. "His name is Robert," James began. "He's my estranged father." Emma's eyes widened. "I have a grandfather?" "Technically, yes," James admitted. "We haven't spoken in decades. Our relationship was complicated." Lily placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "Maybe this is an opportunity to heal old wounds." James sighed. "Perhaps, but I don't want his presence to disrupt the progress we've made." Emma considered this. "Dad, if there's anything I've learned, it's that people can change. Maybe he wants to make amends." The following day, Emma found Robert sitting on a bench by the oak tree. Gathering her courage, she sat beside him. "Why did you come back?" He smiled faintly. "To see the man my son has become and the granddaughter I've never known." "Why now?" she pressed. "Regret is a heavy burden," he confessed. "I left James much like he left you. Seems the pattern runs in the family." Emma felt a pang of empathy. "We're working on rebuilding. It's not easy, but it's worth it." "Do you think he'd be willing to talk to me?" Robert asked hopefully. "I can't speak for him, but I can encourage him," she replied. That evening, Emma shared the conversation with James. He listened quietly, conflict evident in his eyes. "I swore I'd never forgive him," he admitted. "And yet here we are," Emma pointed out gently. "Holding on to anger only keeps us trapped." James nodded slowly. "You're right. Maybe it's time to break the cycle." They arranged to meet Robert at the cafe the next morning. The atmosphere was tense but hopeful. Over cups of coffee, stories unfolded, of misunderstandings, pride, and the wasted years that ensued. "I was a stubborn fool," Robert admitted. "I pushed you away when you needed me most." James sighed. "And I ran away instead of facing my problems. I guess we're more alike than I'd care to admit." "Perhaps we can start anew," Robert suggested cautiously. James glanced at Emma, who offered an encouraging smile. "I'd like that," he agreed. The days that followed were filled with tentative steps toward reconciliation. Robert became a fixture at family dinners, sharing anecdotes that painted a fuller picture of their family history. Laughter returned to the household, filling spaces once occupied by silence. One afternoon, as they all sat together on the porch, Emma shared exciting news. "I've been offered a position with a travel magazine. It means I'll be on the road a lot." "That's amazing," Lily exclaimed. "We're so proud of you." "There's more," Emma continued. "They want me to start by covering stories across the Midwest, so I'll be able to visit home frequently." Relief washed over James's face. "We'd love that." As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of violet and orange, Robert cleared his throat. "I never imagined I'd have moments like this," he said softly. "Neither did I," James admitted, "but I'm grateful." Emma looked around at her family, the generations united despite past fractures. "We've all come a long way." "Indeed," Lily agreed, taking James's hand. The following week, Emma prepared to embark on her new journey. At the train station, surrounded by her parents and grandfather, she felt a mix of excitement and contentment. "Take lots of pictures," James advised, hugging her tightly. "Always," she promised. Robert handed her a small, worn notebook. "This belonged to your great-grandmother. She traveled extensively and documented everything. Perhaps it will inspire you." Touched, Emma embraced him. "Thank you, I'll cherish it." As the train pulled away, she waved to them, her heart full. Looking ahead, the tracks stretched into the distance, a metaphor for the endless possibilities before her. Settling into her seat, Emma opened the notebook. Faded sketches and musings filled the pages, a tapestry of experiences passed down through generations. She smiled, feeling connected to her roots in a profound way. Back in Cedar Grove, life settled into a harmonious rhythm. James and Lily continued to rebuild their relationship, finding joy in the simple moments. Robert became an active member of the community, sharing his wisdom and learning anew. One evening, as they sat together watching the stars, James mused, "It's interesting how life brings us full circle." Lily leaned her head on his shoulder. "Sometimes we have to lose our way to find our path." He nodded thoughtfully. "I'm just glad we found it together." Far away, Emma stood on a hillside, capturing the sunset with her camera. The wind whispered through the grass, and she felt a profound sense of peace. Pulling out her phone, she sent a message to the family group chat. "Thinking of you all. Can't wait to share my stories. Love, Emma." Almost instantly, replies came flooding in, each filled with love and encouragement. She smiled, tucking the phone away. The journey ahead was unknown, but she carried with her the strength and unity of her family, a testament to resilience, forgiveness, and the enduring power of love. As night enveloped the landscape, Emma continued to photograph. Each click of the shutter, a celebration of life and the connections that bind us all. Did you find this story intriguing? Wait until you discover what Jack is really planning with the community center and how it will change Emily's life. Click the video that's about to appear on your screen and uncover all the mystery behind it.